Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you two different piano plugins that you could use that are completely free to give yourself a really nice piano tone when you're making music. Getting straight into it here, the very first one I'm going to talk about is called Labs. This is the soft piano that they offer. I'm sure you've heard of this one, it's quite popular, and this does give you a really cool tone. I'm going to demonstrate how it sounds with and without some effects here. So when you load it up, it will initially sound like this. You could hear right off the bat, this does sound really soft, it's nice and calm, it's a super great tone that you could use, and some of the controls you have in the plugin, for example, this right here is some reverb. I like to set it up about half, you could hear how that sounds here. If you go all the way, you could hear how that sounds like as well. Also a really cool tone all the way up, I do quite like that. But as I said, I personally prefer it maybe about half, but that's going to change depending on what you're making and how you want it to sit in your mix. Now that said, there is also a little trick you could do using another free plugin. I'm sure you've heard of OTT, but if you throw OTT on this sound, you get a really interesting result because it does raise the noise that's normally kind of inaudible or very quiet in the background, which will sound like so. You can see if I do turn it up even more just to exaggerate that, you could hear exactly what it's doing. I'll also turn it up a bit because it's kind of quiet. Hear all that noise that's like up here when I'm playing a note. That's what that brings out. Sometimes you might not want that, sometimes you might, it really depends on the track. But in some cases that could be really desirable. For me to get the perfect balance in my ears is basically turn the depth to about 50%. Too much more and it does seem a little exaggerated, but that seems to be a pretty decent number. And that's the first plugin of two that we're going to show here. Now the second one, unfortunately this does seem to be exclusive to FL Studio. I don't think you can get this anywhere else considering it is built in. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and get into that here. This is the Close Grand. Now to access this, if you're in FL Studio, you go to Packs, then open up the Instruments folder, Keyboard, and it is the very first one. Now when you load this up, it will sound like this. There are a couple of things you could do to change how this does sound as well. First things first, I did add a bit of reverb and a big compressor, which changes it to sound a little more like this. But one of the other things, I did actually make a video on this a while back, so you might remember this tip. In the settings for this, you could actually adjust the range of the pitch knob, and a trick I really like to do often is turn it up to 12, so 1 octave, and then pitch it down that octave. This will sound different to just playing it an octave below because it's actually pitching around these individual samples, which to demonstrate, if I put it up an octave so it's playing at the original bit before we pitched it down, that will sound like this. You can also go up. I don't quite like how this sounds, but to demonstrate, it's like this. But another really cool trick you could do with that is it doesn't necessarily have to be 12. If you want a smaller change, just do something like 3 or 4. And this will actually change the notes you're playing technically, so keep that in mind so that way you could transpose accordingly. You see we got that. Really good way to get a very nice piano sound out of both of those plugins. I hope this has helped you out. Of course, for Spitfire Labs, I will have the link in the description. Drop a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more.